All right, I had a bunch of people say that they really enjoyed data and that maybe these spreadsheets that I was showing on Instagram stories would help them out. And so I went ahead, created a Dropbox for it for any of you to download. It'll be in our YouTube description. It'll also be in my Instagram profile description for all of you to download and be able to start doing this on your own. So when you open it up, the first thing it's going to ask you is, do you want to disable macros? Do not. Please enable the macros. I promise I didn't put anything in there that's going to mess up your computer. What it does is it allows the charts that pull the data to update automatically. So go ahead and enable those macros. And what I would first do is go to data input. We'll talk about this here. All right. So the first thing, anything with an orange is where you can enter data. So let's go ahead and let's enter some. My starting weight, let's just say we're doing somebody who's 185 pounds and they want to get down to, let's say, 173. So they want to lose 12 pounds. Once you put those weights in, what you can see is that things start populating. I also would enter a date. I like to start on a Monday. As you can see, all of these days correspond with a different day of the week. So today just happens to be a Monday. So let's go ahead and put in 1/4/21. And then it populates everything for the next 12 weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and start my day here at 185. That's the starting point. And what I can look here is that if I want to get to my goal weight of 173, then average per day, I need to lose about 0.14. And then average per week is about 1 pound per week. And that's pretty good. This can be used to kind of confirm your goals. If you're up in the 2.5, 3 pounds per week, that's very, very aggressive, and it's probably not very realistic. We want to try and keep our average weight per week somewhere around that 1.5 pounds. Unless you've got a lot of weight to lose, you're significantly overweight, then maybe potentially 2.5 pounds per week may be okay. Again, this is just more of a tool. If you've got really big diet concerns, make sure you talk with your doctor about all this, but this is going to kind of give you an idea of where you need to go. So we're all happy with that 1 pound per week. This actually at the end of the week, if we were to go ahead and let's fill in some of these other numbers, and this is probably going to be pretty realistic. These type of numbers that I'm changing, you're going to go up and down and up and down, and that's totally okay. At the end of the week, it will actually tell you what your actual weight loss was per week. So 185 to 181, this person lost 4 pounds. And you can see that at the total, they've lost 4 pounds. So whenever you fill these up, whatever your average per day, average per week, that's the current day, that's the current. So you can look back and say, all right, all of this data doesn't matter anymore. These are the numbers that really matter for me. Moving on to the run tracker, this kind of does the same thing. It's going to add up all your miles for you, as you can see there. Right? So every day that you run something, and you can put in decimals here. If that's what you ran, it'll total up your mileage. And then you can go in and fill in your type. So I did a recovery jog, and we'll talk about these paces over here in a second. What this also does for you is if you run too many of these hard types, then these hard sessions start counting all of your hard sessions. And if you run too many hard sessions in a week based on your total volume, this will switch to a red. So based on running 19 miles a week, running 7 of those is a certain percentage of your total volume that is indicating that you potentially could overtrain or get injured if you're not taking recovery very, very seriously. So what we can see here is that if I were to bump this training day up to 15 and I bump this up to 5, at a certain point, that 7 miles is no longer a high percentage of the rest of the week. And so it goes back into green. So for somebody who's running 40 miles a week, 7 miles at a really hard pace isn't going to get them hurt, right? But if I were to only do 18 miles per week, then running 7, right, which is roughly 50%. It's a little less, right? 9 would be 50%. But if I'm running over half of my miles that week really, really hard, then I potentially could run into injury. Again, this is just a guideline. Your coach may be putting you into periods of overtraining, overreaching for a specific taper program. This is just based on some science, some data, definitely anecdote of a lot of different runners that, hey, you should keep no more than 10% of your miles per week to really, really dedicated speed and hard training. Not only that, but everybody's different. Some people can handle a little bit more, some people a little less. Again, this is all just a guideline for you to make sure that, hey, I'm not potentially getting into a part of overtraining. This is really good too. I like to go ahead on like a Sunday and kind of plan out potentially what my miles for the next week are going to be. And then I can go ahead and make sure that I'm not going to overtrain. It gives me a nice snapshot of the week where I'm going to be at. Now to get all of these paces here, right, you can see that there's no paces here. Currently, you have to fill those in. A couple different ways you can do it. You can ask your coach for all of these different things. If you don't have a coach, one resource that I really like is Macmillan Training. So I'll show you that here right now. We'll go to Macmillan Training. You can use a calculator, and the way that this works is that you put in whatever your goal is. Let's say you want to run a 5K. Let's say you want to run a 5K. You want to do it in like 50 minutes. You put that in. Go ahead, click on what level of runner you are, and all of these question marks will tell you what type or what the descriptions are. Then you put in what's your current fitness level. So for this person, they want to run a 5K in 50 minutes, and currently they're running a 10K. They just ran a 10K in, let's say, an hour 10. Well, that doesn't make sense. Let's make this a 10K. There we go. They want to run a 10K in 50 minutes and a 10K in an hour 10. You don't have to put in an email, but then calculate paces. Go over here on the left to your training paces, and this is going to be all of the different training paces of what you should run to achieve your goal. So Macmillan does a really nice job. So if you're going out on an easy run, you should try and keep your pace between a 12:10 and a 12:49. If you're trying to go out and do some tempo running, you should do it between a 10:56 and an 11:18. And Macmillan has all these little videos, and if you click on everything, it'll tell you, what these stamina paces do. So for stamina, it improves your ability to run fast pace for longer and longer, right? So you can look at all of these, and what you do is you simply take these paces and go ahead and input them on the pace input, the third page here. So just for example, if I needed to run a recovery between 12:50 and 11:30 based on the Macmillan thing, I input those, and then when I go in ahead and I select recovery jog, it automatically updates those paces for me. So do this once when you download it. Go to Macmillan, fill in all of your stuff, and then every single block that you go ahead, it'll automatically auto-populate. This is another really nice way to go ahead and pre-plan your week and figure out what kind of paces you need to go. This is a really great way to build your training block, right? So you can go ahead, do like 3 or 4 long runs, one time a week, maybe get in some of your speed work, make sure that it doesn't overlap into any hard red sessions, and you can go ahead and start building your running program from there. If you're a visual person, I've also got included these charts here. Let me scooch this over a little bit so I can highlight it. I've got these charts, and so here's a weight lift or a weight loss graph. Okay, so it'll show you where on the graph you go ahead and you bump up and down. So you can see, oh man, I had a cheat meal and I bumped up a lot, so I want to go ahead and make sure that, I follow a more downward trend. And then here on the running volume graph, let's go ahead and let's put in another week to kind of really illustrate this. What this does is it kind of allows a visual to see, hey, all of a sudden I did not so much, and then I had a big spike in volume. Okay, so this is a visual representation of how many miles you're running each week. So each bar is a different week, and so what we're trying to avoid is these big spikes in our training, right? So I could say, all right, well, week 1 I ran here, I had a big volume and I didn't really feel all that great, so I'm going to bring it down. So you want to try and start evening these bars out, obviously increasing a little bit over time, but what we don't want to see is these huge big spikes in our running volume. So this is just a couple different ways for you to track your data and really help make sure that you're staying on track. If you're a visual person, look at these running volume graphs. If you're more all about the numbers, you can go ahead and make sure like, hey, I'm doing 18 this week, 35 that week, 7 the next week. Those numbers aren't right. Let me try and get them a little bit more even. If you need to lose weight, this is a great way to track your data. Even if you don't need to lose weight necessarily, this is still a great way to make sure that you're consuming enough calories to meet your training needs. So maybe your starting weight is 185 and you want to keep your 185 weight. But you start marking yourself and you start seeing that you're losing a lot of weight. You started out at 185 and now all of a sudden you're 178. You've lost 6 pounds and you didn't even realize it. You know, you lost 7 pounds, whatever it is. And then, hey, I need to increase my calories. You increase your calories, you start seeing that your weight went up beyond 185 and now you're at 190. Okay, I need to bring my calories down a little bit, right? So tracking this stuff is a really great way to make sure that your performance is on point. You don't have to track every single day. So for example, if I just took out a couple of these, the chart will go ahead and update anyway. It'll just have these periods where it kind of auto fills in till the next spot, right? So if I went ahead and go back, and I didn't have any weight measurement because weighing every single day stresses you out, but then I stayed basically the same. Okay, so it's just going to autofill all of that stuff in. And so you don't have to weigh yourself every single day. You can do it every other day. You can do it once a week. Basically, whatever works best for you. And this will just give you that weight loss. It'll give you that trend line, basically. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you've got any questions. I did kind of put this together over the course of a couple weeks. And so if there are some bugs, if you find it, go ahead. I just found a bug myself while I was talking about this, so I'm going to go back and update it. But if you find any, let me know. If you're having any troubles accessing it on Dropbox or whatever, just shoot me a DM on Instagram, shoot me an email at 4horsemanSC@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to try and update it and fix it and get it all working for you guys. Thanks a lot.